On the 29th of May 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari declared on his inauguration day that is for nobody and is for everybody. That was a declaration that got many Nigerians talking at that time, nearly 8 years and 2 terms under his belt. The Nigerian president is leaving office for President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a few weeks. President Buhari rose to the presidency on his 4th attempt, having promised to fix Nigeria's economy and security challenged by former military head of state. His scorecards in the area of security remains a divisive topic. Just a few days ago, the outgoing president insists he has fulfilled his promise while regaling Nigerians with a long list of what he called extraordinary achievements by his government. Joining me to review and score the performance of President Buhari on the show today is Segun, Sopitan, a public affairs analyst. So one welcome to you, Segun, and thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me, Gbenga. Good evening, viewers.
I don't think we will have enough time to do justice to the scorecard of 8 years in just 20 odd minutes, but we'll give it our best attempt. Now, Segun, the primary responsibility of government starts with the protection of its citizens. In terms of security, what steps has the Buhari administration taken to tackle the Boko Haram insurgency and other forms of insecurity in the country? Has there been a decrease in incidents of violence and terrorism since the administration took office?
Okay, well, it's a good thing that you started from the security perspective or from that particular measure of their performance, because this was a major problem in 2014, 2015. If you remember, as of that time, elections had to be postponed. Presidential elections in particular had to be postponed because elections were simply going to be impossible in certain parts of the country because of Boko Haram and the kind of ground that they had gained, within the country. They had gone as far as the Federal Capital Territory, Kano, Kaduna, Niger State. A good chunk of the northern parts of Nigeria were under attack, very active attack from Boko Haram. And there were fears, even as far down south as Lagos, that there were plans by Boko Haram to do some harm and do some damage to major infrastructure. So juxtaposing that with where we are today, in terms of Boko Haram specifically as one of the elements of the insecurity problem in Nigeria, obviously a lot of progress has been made. Boko Haram has degraded significantly, they've been pushed back significantly. Places that were totally uninhabitable as at that time are now beginning to regain some semblance of normalcy. Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, which was a hotbed at that time, nightlife was dead at that time, and all of that. In fact, even the airport had to be shut at a point. All of that is in the past, and things seem to have returned to normalcy to a large extent. Of course, Boko Haram is still operating. They're still doing what they do, but it's no longer the way it used to. So from that angle, yes, this administration recorded significant progress. However, that problem then metamorphosed into a hydra-headed monster. So it was almost as if, yes, the federal government under the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari scored major victories against Boko Haram, but Boko Haram metamorphosed and became several other things, including things like the herdsmen. There are talks that some of those people that we refer to as the herdsmen, the killer herdsmen, came from Boko Haram, came from some elements of Boko Haram. The bandits, as a problem in a good chunk of the north central and northwest, also came from Boko Haram. And then, of course, we know what has happened since that time with regards to things like unknown gunmen, incursion of the bandits to some degree, kidnappers, killer herdsmen, even down in the southwest.
So there are other elements of insecurity beyond Boko Haram.
Yes, exactly.
And how has the government responded to those security threats?
Well, I mean, as it is now, I think that our government simply hasn't done enough. A lot of these security issues cannot be dealt with in the traditional way that our security architecture is designed. A lot of the issues that we're dealing with must be tackled from the local communities. You cannot effectively provide security to a territory without the active involvement of the locals in that territory, without the active involvement of the various sectors of society, in those places. And I think maybe this is one of the major mistakes that the federal government has made in the last 8 years. The lack of this thought that it's all about might, is perhaps one of the major problems that the administration has had, and that's why it fails to record enough successes in those other areas. So whilst we've gained, some ground with regards to Boko Haram, if you want to talk about the overall security situation in the country, I'm afraid it might not be significantly better than what we had in 2015.
Okay.
It simply just changed its nature.
Now, Segun, once you are secured as a human being, you begin to think of other things like feeding, on employment, and the economy. Now, one of the key promises the APC government made before the Buhari administration assumed office was the issue of unemployment. Has Buhari's administration been successful in reducing unemployment rates and improving the country's economy? How have they fared when it comes to employment and creating jobs to boost economic growth, particularly in non-oil sectors?
Look, so the way the Buhari administration presented its own agenda at the beginning of its journey with Nigeria was on a three-tripod plank, on a three-tripod footing: security, the economy, and then the anti-corruption drive or war, as they called it. In terms of the economy, I think this is perhaps one of the areas where they've had the worst failure. So if you just look at some basic indicators, you could look at the exchange rate, for example. When the Buhari administration came on board, the official exchange rate was 197.50. Today, it's 462. That's over almost a 250, almost 300% growth. The parallel market is even worse. You had the black market rate as at that time running at around between 230 to 250 naira to the dollar. It's 740 today. And then another factor, that is kind of embedded in that is the fact that the divergence between the official rate and the black market rate has exploded, to almost double. As at 2015, we had maybe a 40, 50 naira divergence from the official rate to the parallel market rate. Today, it's over 400, almost 400 naira. If you look at inflation was single digit in 2015, 9%. As at the last report of the NBS was 22.04, and the same thing goes for interest rates. You look at the various indicators of the economy, and it is clear that the Buhari administration has not done well at all. Of course, you spoke about the unemployment rate, the poverty rate that we want to talk about. Everything has worsened between 2015 and today. And it's not a surprise because right from the beginning, even his supporters, even his most ardent supporters, admitted that economic management was perhaps not exactly the strong point of General Buhari at that time. The expectation was that he would make up for that in other areas, which unfortunately have not materialized.
Let's look at the other areas where people thought you would perform better, and I want to know your assessments on this. I remember when it was campaigning before the 2015 elections, a lot of people would go back in memory lane and remember when it was military president of Nigeria and say, is incorruptible. They even called him Megaskia, the honest one. So people said, look, Nigeria's biggest problem then was corruption. Let's just get this man in to deal with corruption. Now, what measures has the government taken to address corruption and financial mismanagement in the country? Have these measures been effective in promoting transparency and accountability in government institutions. And we're also seeing oil theft on an industrial scale under this administration's watch that is affecting its foreign earnings.
Look, when you juxtapose the promise of a thing with the reality that then occurred, I think this is the biggest failing of this administration. It's the fact that General Muhammad Buhari came on a wave of optimism and a wave of hope that, based on his antecedents when he was military head of state, of being a man of integrity.